What's going on, guys? BouseFeenux here, and today, the illustrious Mr. Eric Pope has released an article on the For Honor News website detailing the reason behind the changes for some of the stuff we're going to be seeing on the PTR here, I believe, later this week. Now, in my video last week, I pretty much covered all of the changes we're going to be looking at, so if you haven't seen that video already, click the card in the top right-hand corner of this video to catch up, as I won't really be going too in-depth about the changes in this one, but rather adding my 2 cents with the reasoning behind them. Anyway, let's move on. So first up, we know that the parry mechanic is getting a huge rework. It's pretty much the strongest defensive option in the game, and one of the reasons people don't want to attack in the current meta. It makes sense to start here if you think about it. Now, as for the details on that, we know that from the info we got last week that the frame advantage is changing, meaning that light parries and heavy parries are getting the same punishment opportunities. This is one change that people are kind of uncomfortable with, and rightfully so, because for some people, light parries are a little tougher to get, and they feel like they should be rewarded more for getting them. The reason for this change, according to the devs though, is that they want light parries to be safer because they can't be feinted, and at high level, they're easily punishable. Now this I can understand, because like I said earlier, getting parried, especially on a light attack where the punishment is greater, is one of the reasons players don't even want to attack in the first place, especially if you play a character without a viable opener. This is one of the changes I'm highly interested in testing out, and I think it's going to make some of the weaker characters on the roster a lot stronger. Moving on though, let's talk about guard break. The changes to this one I really didn't understand well at first because I had so little information on them, and all I really knew is that attack startups were going to have a 0 to 100 millisecond guard break vulnerability, and I didn't really know in what context or what that meant, but thankfully, they very clearly outlined their objectives in this news article, and the short of it is, they're changing all guard break vulnerability during startups of attacks to be the same across the board. So what that means is that some attacks that are really slow were almost always beaten by a guard break. Think Lawbringer and Raider Top Heavy. If you were paying attention, you could almost always guard break those characters out of those attacks on startup because they had a slow startup. They're also changing this so that the feint into guard break tactic won't beat a baited parry. So if someone feints to try and get you to attack so they can guard break you on startup, they won't be able to anymore. This is insane. This is a huge strategy that a lot of characters use to get damage, so we'll see how this plays out. As for stamina though, they reason the changes behind it being that it's unfair that stamina is a resource pretty much only spent by the attacker. You'll understand the pain of this if you've ever fought an extremely turtley Centurion or Lawbringer. They wait until you're low on stamina, then take the rest of it and leave you without any offensive options while you pretty much just have to watch your character get pummeled. Which, again, is pretty damn unfair. Now, I'm not sure if the changes they're implementing are the right ones, though, because, and I could be wrong, I don't see anything that says blocking and dodging costs stamina. I only see that these actions pause stamina regeneration. If anything, these changes will hurt people that go on the offensive even more, as they won't be able to defend themselves against counterattacks or when the opponent goes on the offensive. So again, I feel like stamina should be drained when someone is wailing on you or when you dodge. Now, the changes to out of stamina, I feel like are the right ones. Out of stamina should be something you should try to avoid at all costs, and it should be devastating. But when you combine it with the base stamina changes that they're planning on implementing, I think it's going to be a huge problem in some matchups. Centurion, Warden, Lawbringer, Warlord, and Conqueror are going to be even stronger in this situation, I feel. And to further elaborate on this topic, I think that with the changes above, we're going to enter into an out-of-stamina meta, where one opponent tries to make the other run out of stamina to capitalize on a win, because with these changes, if you play aggressively enough, you just might be able to keep someone permanently out of stamina long enough to secure a win. We'll see though, it'll be interesting to test this out for sure. Now, they do talk about chip damage and revenge in this article, but I feel like I already covered those enough and expressed my opinions on those pretty thoroughly in my last video on this topic, because they did give me a lot of information on them. But they do talk about the zone flicker fix more in depth, so let's hit on that for a moment. They realize that pretty much since launch, flicker has been a problem. The fix wasn't simple though, because it was a mechanical input by the user that manipulated the on-screen stance widget. In plain English, that means to execute a zone attack, you have to press 2 buttons at the same time, but it's almost physically impossible to press with both fingers on a controller at exactly the same time. You need the precision of a machine to do that, so they added a buffer of a few milliseconds that allows you to slightly stagger button presses, allowing you to execute the zone attack. They had looked at a ton of different ways to fix this, but they couldn't come up with any way that didn't change the game or comfort of the user in some drastic way, so what they've settled on is removing or scaling back on the buffer. So now when you input a zone attack, you'll need to be a lot more precise. This new change will make your zone attacks a little tougher to execute, and they feel like making zone attacks harder to execute far outweighs having Flicker still in the game, and I have to agree, Flicker sucks. It feels unfair to fight against and gives some characters a notable advantage in 1v1 situations. But finally, the last topic I wanted to touch on is the change to Duel. We've got more info on the anti-runaway system that they had hinted at in the patch notes last week. So how it'll work is that it'll track the character's navigation to see who's the runner and who is the pursuer. How it does this, I have no idea, but we'll see how they implement it. Anyway, after a certain amount of time, the runner will have a reduction in navigation speed, which here I can only assume is movement speed as well, and if they continue to run, they'll receive an automatic stamina drain over time on top of that. In addition to this, the pursuer gets a 30% increase in navigation speed. This is pretty wicked, and hopefully it'll stop cowards from running out the clock in duels. I feel like this is a pretty straightforward change, and definitely one that we needed. But guys, that is about everything I thought was worth talking about and explaining today. If you want to read all of this yourself, you can do so by using the link that I've left in the description below. Now, if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to leave a like to show your support, and if you're new here, get subscribed so that you never miss any new content or For Honor news. Additionally, if you haven't already, consider joining my Discord to hang out with some like-minded folks by using the link in the description. But until next time, I'm BouseFeenux. I'll see you at the next one, and as always, thank you so much for watching.